on an individual level, how are you mentoring marketers to incorporate AI into their workflow and navigate the changes that AI is driving in their career?
Figure out ways you can become a better storyteller. Put stories out there, see what resonates. Let AI take the first pass, use the save time for creative explorations, like find ways to have it not just be sort of a crutch or a co-pilot, but something that is like materially freeing up your day and removing some of the just route mundane tasks that would have just sucked up 4 hours of your life for absolutely no reason. And then the last one is just like stay close to the edge. The frontier is advancing as we speak. Like from when we jumped on this conversation to right now, something happened. So, play with the tools, test weird workflows, build intuition through use, like find ways where these things connect, where the people who even made them don't know the possibilities of how they could interact with each other.
Hi, and welcome to Growth Talks, where we dive deep into the world of growth and marketing with industry leaders. I'm Krystina Rubino, the General Manager of Offline at Right Side Up, and your host. Today, I'm excited to welcome Everett Butler, the Head of Marketing at Lindy. Over the past 15 years, Everett has helped shape the growth engines of some of the most transformative tech companies out there, including Tesla, Uber, Affirm, and Thumbtack. Now at Lindy, he's leading marketing for a company that's defining a new category, AI employees. His experience is diverse, spanning performance and brand, product marketing and lifecycle, and building cross-functional teams from the ground up. So with that, welcome Everett to the show. I'm stoked to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I mentioned this a little bit just now, but you've worked across a lot of different categories. So fintech, on-demand transportation, local services marketplaces. But at Lindy, this is a new thing entirely. You're building and helping to define a new category. How did you audit and assess go-to-market readiness when you joined the team?
Yeah, I think, all of those previous experiences really prepared me for this one, because at Lindy, we're not just building a product, we're defining a category. So you kind of have to start from first principles, right? Who really needs us today? What jobs can Lindy take off their plate? And how well do we tell that story in language they really understand? So we audited go-to-market readiness across 3 planes. 1, customer clarity. Do we have conviction on ICPs and use cases? Where are we guessing? 2, messaging and positioning. Are we explaining the product in a way that maps to real business pain? And the 3rd is kind of your bread and butter channel economics. Do we have at least one acquisition loop that is reliably trading dollars for growth? So pairing those with some qualitative inputs, which, shameless self-plug, we used Lindy for internally. It's listening to all of our sales calls. It can review the knowledge repository and base of our churn notes. It can assess onboarding flows and engagement from marketing channels and synthesize those into sort of reports, insights, and learnings for you as a marketer. And then pairing that with hard funnel data to understand conversion dynamics and leakage. It gave us a really clear map on where to focus our go-to-market resources and where there was actual pull, and then more importantly, where to cut noise, because it's a game of whack-a-mole. There's too many things to do, and it's all about kind of distilling down, what is the essence of the early seeds of a go-to-market strategy for the business. So I think what that looked like in practice was doubling down on a few key areas. Organic growth and SEO was something we invested in early and was really paying some dividend and yields for us. Turning our intermittent influencer partnerships into a sort of a programmatic and always-on channel where we're getting hype in all the YouTube podcasts and influencers that love to hype up the space. And the persistent drumbeat of content with guardrails around CPM for efficiency. Activating paid social and just finding where our audience lived really was the early steps to get the motion going.
Yeah, and some of those steps are like very familiar to people listening to the show and to people who work in growth marketing. But the part about it that's kind of unfamiliar is like there's no shared language around this yet. There's no like syntactical like, oh, when somebody says this, I know what they mean. So when you're kind of lacking that shared language, shared knowledge, and also, frankly, people might not even know that they want or need what you're marketing at this point in time. So when the category is so new and search demand is probably, limited or maybe undefined, how do you, because, obviously paid social, paid search, peanut butter and jelly for growth marketers, right? Like this is the first, it's like, I don't know how much people learned how to cook, but like, peanut butter and jelly is a pretty easy sandwich to make, right? There's a reason it's a go-to, but like paid search is probably not the best go-to for you guys at that point. So has the strategy looked like, search engine optimization more? Like how are you, because even to prioritize SEO, like you're looking at demand. So have you guys wrapped your head around that challenge?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that I was candidly concerned when I joined, that the sort of traditional motions around organic growth that I've seen work elsewhere in terms of just capturing high intent keywords and just sort of like knowing what people are looking for when they're in market for your product was going to be difficult. The reality was, even though AI is just transforming the shape of work as we know it, like daily, people are still just trying to solve the same problems, right? They're like, how do I scale my sales team without hiring 10 more people? Where do I drive improvements in efficiency in my like inbound support channels? There's sort of these like keywords that SaaS typically would already be kind of either bidding on from a paid search standpoint or optimizing for via content investments to capture those long tail queries. If they're out there, like we have every right to win them from an AI standpoint. I think the difference and the nuance there is, we had to be really discreet about the positioning. We couldn't outsource it to the market. We had to author it. So early on, the trap would have been over optimizing for precision, particularly around like how we talked about our product. When I joined, I was kind of delightfully surprised to see that we weren't like in a boardroom or executive room debating the semantics of AI employees, or is it workflow automation, or is it agents? Instead of just kind of like having those philosophical debates, we just put real language out into the world and then just saw what hit and saw what the response was. So typical growth approach of shipping fast, testing dozens of frames, and we let the customer behavior really lead us to the truth. So I think ultimately what it comes down to is like go to market in a new category is part product, part marketing, and part anthropology. You're not just selling, you're teaching, you're translating, you're recruiting people into this new mental model. That means tight feedback loops across product sales, growth, and definitely no silos. It also means you need to be bold in your bets, especially in a field like AI. There's a lot of noise. Cutting through that is kind of job number one for me as a marketing leader here. And just the pace of development as well is blistering. The future is being drafted by the second, and the ground is shifting under our very feet. And honestly, I think in a time like this, it's better to be ambitious and a little outside of your comfort zone in terms of what's possible versus risk falling behind by just kind of having those more like high level debates internally around like what you call yourself and how you build sort of that shared language.
I think sometimes that we can get to, as marketers, where we hang up on what we're calling something or how we're showing up. And especially in like influencer driven channels, and frankly, like in AI, like there are very influential people that are talking about this regularly. And that, like, again, the syntax is being created as we talk. So if you wound up getting like really precious about like what to call something, like you might miss the boat on getting in front of the people that are going to adopt the technology the fastest. Cause like we're in early adopter phase still, I think, even though like I've been floored by the amount of, even just in the last couple of months, like e-commerce advertisers that I've talked to and in-house marketers where they're like, yeah, man, like we didn't know where this volume was coming from. Guess what? It's people like shopping and doing research on ChatGPT. But it really, in like the last just even few months, few weeks, it's become very apparent that the game is changing. And I think people are trying to stay on top of it, but it's something that's evolving, like you said, by the second.
It's wild. Like, and I think there's such a degree of, there's this fear of, especially in the marketing world, like, am I being left behind? Or like, do I know everything I need to know? Am I using the right platforms and tools? And I think, as a marketer, internally marketing an AI product, there's a question of how much you want to actually like use that as a lever to drive interest awareness and just comprehension of your product versus like, do I actually want to steer that ship a different direction and say, actually, like no one's got it. We're like, even AI doesn't know what it's doing. So there's some beauty to just the uncertainty of just going back to the traditional frameworks and sort of first principles thinking that got us here. I think it can still be applied to a really strong outcome, in this business and in this time and space.
Yeah. And even that kind of leads into, it tees up another point that I, wanted to talk about and ask you about, which is like, marketers have a playbook, like especially marketing leaders. Like if you dropped me in the middle of a company tomorrow, there are go-to tactics, go-to channels, go-to audit. Like there's go-to things when I think about like even something like channel sequencing. When you are looking at, again, you've got a lot of different vertical experience, but what's your typical approach to channels, like selection and sequencing? And then how do you adapt that playbook depending on the vertical or business model?
Yeah. You have to have a framework first and foremost. You can't just be, I look at, Elena just went to Lovable and she's just so good at like the growth playbook stuff and writes some incredible content. And I've just been following along on her journey. And like, she clearly kind of like had, she went right to like activation funnel and like, okay, we got to make sure that these people are sticking around. And, there's some core elements of both across the product and marketing spectrum of like, you got to build a good mousetrap. You have to have a really seamless, frictionless experience. And then you got to work on those loops. But context matters, right? So, in terms of how I think about sequencing, first you start with the questions. You say, where is the urgency? Where's the trust? Where's the friction? And those kind of guide the initial places you should start doing your investigation. And ultimately where you solve those is across customer journeys, not channels. So for example, in a two-sided marketplace like Uber, you're balancing supply liquidity with demand density. At Affirm, trust was the choke point. So we invested early in name brand logos, merchant storytelling, retail distribution, just to kind of build up and validate what was a fairly nascent concept in terms of the buy now, pay later space. At Lindy, the friction is education, like hard stop. So we need to lean into high touch narrative rich formats, founder-led content, demo-based offers, outbound built around these aha moments of like what it's like to use AI in your sort of daily workflows, and ultimately ecosystem and kind of education partner investments. So while sequencing matters, you don't earn the right to scale until you've found one reliable wedge. Then you start to layer in the complexity, not before.
I get asked often, just because of my own experience, like I'm a generalist who tripped and fell and decided to specialize in offline marketing about 9 years ago. Part of it was like I was just blown away by what was available to marketers, especially at high growth companies when it came to podcast advertising. And like, I love a nascent media marketplace. Like you give me some sort of a nascent monetizable media channel and I am the happiest person. There's also these bedrock paid channels we often overlook in the mix, but there are bedrock parts of a marketing strategy like retention that sometimes, unfortunately, wind up being an afterthought. And with the greatest products in the world, there even still has to be a retention strategy and execution. So how do you make sure that when you're just like acquisition, growth at all costs, how do you make sure that retention isn't just siloed and an afterthought?
Yeah. It's, as a growth marketer who early in my career came up on the life cycle and retention side, I feel very validated and seen now that the growth community is actually saying, oh, wow, like it's super important that we like drive LTV and keep these people around. And I want to like bang my computer and be like, oh, But, it's even more important today. And I think especially in the AI field, because there's a plethora of vertical and horizontal solutions out there right now, just being like jammed down everyone's throat in terms of like, hey, AI this, AI that. And there's a lot of curiosity and hunger to explore those products, particularly at the sort of at the business level. And, just not only finding customers, but finding the right customers who are the right fit for your product, and also investing in the sort of mechanisms to like keep them happy, healthy, and whole on your platform is just as crucial, if not more, than the top of funnel investment. So I like to say you can't scale what doesn't stick. In every org I've led, we treat retention as a growth responsibility, and that means instrumenting onboarding to measure activation quality, not just conversion. incentivizing sales and marketing on retained revenue, not just bookings and kind of new revenue. That's a good little hack for your go-to-market team. And then baking success marketing into go-to-market. So what that looks like in practice is case studies, proof points, customer-led content, you name it. At Uber and Affirm, I think retention was tightly linked to user behavior. So you had to build systems around habits. And at Lindy, it's about ongoing utility. That's where, kind of our investments in lifecycle marketing, onboarding agents, we're using our own product to effectively onboard people onto the product, which is kind of cool. They get to see it in practice and then be like, oh, wow, we've got a little teaser that says, like, by the way, that was a Lindy that just helped you. Activation isn't a moment, it's emotion. And it's something you got to keep investing in long-term to make sure that you're continually getting the return and yield out of it that you should by, not burning those dollars at the top and then just having a leaky bucket at the bottom.
Yeah, I know. And something that keeps coming up on the show is like, is it a funnel? Is it a path? Is it a circle? And I'm like, listen,
it's a jigsaw.
Who the hell knows? It's a construct and we might live in a simulation. Like, how philosophical do you want to get today?
Right. Build a great product, give people a good experience. You can't lose.
It is so funny how many times we take it back to basics like that. Like, even just in day-to-day conversation on the show, yes, but like in day-to-day conversation, another one that comes up all the time is brand. And for years, I think brand work and brand strategy, was like kind of anathema to growth. It was like, well, we're really tightly focused on lower funnel. And it's like, well, where the lower part of the funnel, where do you think it comes from? Something I joke about on the show.
Just because you can't directly measure it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
And it also, just because it can't be measured with last click attribution or last touch attribution doesn't mean that it can't be measured. And from a brand perspective, brand doesn't necessarily mean media spend. Brand means, how are you showing up in this world to your customers? So I think in the last few years, especially as capital dried up a little bit and everybody is being forced to do a lot more with a little less, or a little less with a lot more. Close enough. There's a push to differentiate yourself, to eke all of the value that's possible out of every dollar that you're spending on marketing. So it very much, I recognize that LTV and retention, and I think marketers recognize that LTV and retention is such an important piece of the puzzle. I also just think, frankly, companies in this space have grown. They've grown up to the point, and maybe they've hit a growth plateau, and you have to try different things and you have to pull different levers to get yourself out of that plateau and kind of scaling again to hit another plateau. And then it's a rinse and repeat kind of a thing.
Yeah. Airbnb is the perfect example of that, right? Because they were just throwing money into the performance engine and just had this finely tuned growth machine around paid search and paid social. And then pandemic hit and they were like, scrap it all. We need to just be organically at the top of people. People are searching Airbnb because we are synonymous with a place you are going to stay when you go on vacation, or you go to a trip to another country, or you're visiting your in-laws and you don't want to stay in their childhood bedroom. So yeah, true story.
I was going to say, on a twin bed with maybe Backstreet Boys Are in Sync posters.
The posters of Devin Sawa's on the. I'm dating myself a little bit, or maybe I'm dating my wife. I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast. But yeah, it's all real. So I think just the reality of I'm excited about where we are is, I came up as a growth and sort of product marketer, but coming around to the other side of the fence and seeing that there's appetite to tell a story and connect emotionally with people, especially in a world where AI takes all of the sort of mechanisms and the day-to-day operation of a marketing function off of your plate, then it just becomes about can you curate taste? Can you tell a great story? Can you do something that's emotionally resonant and memorable in the public's mind? That's brand, that's creative. And that's kind of an exciting place to be.
Yeah, it is. And I want more people to be excited by that. Growth can look like a lot of different things. Just because something's really challenging to measure, it doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. And maybe there's an opportunity that's so good that's right in front of you that it's well, now I've got to rethink my measurement stack. Not, I can't do this opportunity because I can't measure it. because if other advertisers are doing it, it can be measured. It can. And interestingly, like when we're, you know, again, thinking about like what go-to-market looks like across categories, is there anything that you look at, you know, across the different companies that you've worked at, across the different categories you worked in, where you're just like, this is true every single time? So like a universal truth. Or have you found that just context and like business context, market context truly just overrides everything?
I think context wins for sure. But there are some fundamental truths. So I think the first is, especially in B2B SaaS, people don't buy products, they buy solved problems. That's a big one. As a marketer, like the second is probably clarity is better than cleverness. You know, we always kind of want to be a little smarter than we think we are when it comes to the message, but ultimately like just breaking through with, you know, the most obvious thing is most of the times most powerful marketing you can do. And then the last one is really near and dear to my heart, which is the closer you are to the customer, the fewer shortcuts you take. So just being really regimented and focused on building the interaction points and the kind of conversations with your customers that maybe don't necessarily exist in the day-to-day to continue to feed the strategy is critical.
I have a bunch of other questions that I'm going to ask you, but we usually take a little break and we do a game. It's called the A/B test. I hope that it is the least scientific A/B test that any of us ever run. I'm just going to say, like, some of the questions are work related. Some of them are for funsies. And I tell people you can have one, it depends, because it's not a hard and fast rule. Nothing about this is serious. It's kind of like if you've ever watched Whose Line Is It Anyway? Everything's made up and the points don't matter.
As a highly competitive person, the points matter. Like, I'm going to win this game.
I knew I liked you. We all the time, myself and two of the people on my team that now worked with me for almost 10 years, like here, other places. It's like, we are the most competitive people about the stupidest shit that you've ever heard. Like,
doesn't matter if it's there, if there's room to debate, like it's happening.
Yeah. Like one of the dumbest memes I've seen online is like, I think I'm about to win therapy. And it's like, that is not what we're supposed to be trying to do there, but I see where you're going with this.
I respect your opinion.
Respect the opinion. Okay. So would you rather launch the product or name the product?
Name it.
Are you taking
Do I
the
need
call?
to provide justification? Like, or is this just an answer?
You may. Or you may just let your answer stay on its own. There is no correct. I am so sorry that I have given you an ill-defined game to play where you cannot.
What are the rules?
Win.
How do I win this game?
I love that for you. So, you know, sometimes Everett, we don't get to know all the rules when we play the game.
All right, that's fair.
And sometimes there just are no rules, like life.
Great, love it.
Early adopter or fast follower?
Early adopter all day.
Are you like? I say this all the time, but I went off of Apple Watch after I bought the first one. And then I came back later.
Came back
and
around,
I was like,
full loop.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
the product just wasn't ready for you. You were too advanced. You needed
I'm so sure. Yeah, more like they didn't find all the problems that I found yet. Honestly, companies should like send me their stuff for user testing, because if I can break something, I will. It's
fantastic.
Often.
Yeah, it's a good plug. Sponsored posts.
Imagine.
Brought to you by Apple.
Oh gosh, tacos or burgers?
That's a tough one. Is a taco a sandwich? I would go burger. I'm going to go burger on this one.
If we're going to debate if a taco is a sandwich, or we at work one afternoon made an entire 100-step flow chart as to whether or not a hot dog was a sandwich, and then categorize. These are the really important questions.
Yeah. So if a hot dog is a sandwich, which you obviously came to the conclusion that it was, a taco.
No, it's not.
By nature is
hot dog is not a sandwich.
I'm ending this podcast. Sorry.
Okay. If we might separately need to follow up, because a hot dog is a hot dog.
All right,
but
sidebar that
we
one.
found the first thing we disagree on. I think is
like any good new relationship, you have to kind of have a little bit of friction before it clicks.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it worse to lose your phone or lose your wallet?
I don't own a wallet, so phone all the way. Like who needs a wallet these days? Like you tap and go. Do I look
that's
like I'm
fair.
under 21, Mr. Bartender? Like, I have 2 kids and a lot of grays in my beard, so.
Oh, do you take the call or do you send it to voicemail?
Oh, no, you can't pick up calls these days. That's a trap.
Yes.
Never.
Akbar was right.
I worry about that though, because like I said, I am a parent, and I'm like, am I missing, like, I'm sorry, your son is deathly ill at school and needs to come home immediately. And I'm like, sorry, leave a voicemail if it's important. Delete.
No, but yeah, spam calls are a big thing. Paid acquisition or organic growth?
I mean, I love a good sugar spike on the paid side, but the organic growth is just so much more durable.
Fair. I think I might know the answer to this one, but write with AI or craft it yourself?
Both. Can I say both? Is there an option C?
There's your option C.
Okay, great. Yeah. You got to have an opinion. AI is not going to give you a sense of personality. It'll try, but it's not there.
You can tell when the human in the loop has been out of the loop for a minute. Like it goes off the rails pretty damn quick. Surprisingly, but also like it's nascent technology.
Yeah, total side note, but have you seen the research post from Anthropic where they just like took the rails off and had them talk to each other for a while? It got weird.
No!
It got existential, and then it turned into just this like a barrage of emojis back and forth and like epic proclamations of spirituality and love. I need to find that. I might need you to send me that after this. Yeah,
I thought what you were going to say is, I don't know if you saw that Anthropic had a vending machine.
I did see that as well. That was great. Yeah. Fail business. AI is not going to come for our B2B SaaS yet, but they're not far off.
Yeah. Just discounting products to free. A marketing strategy that no one thought of. Who would have? Yeah. They're bringing something new to the table. Let's see. Would you rather be the brand strategist or the storyteller?
I like a good story. I'll tell a story. Yeah.
Fair. Would you rather be famous or be legendary?
Legendary. Yeah. Legendary lives beyond your lifetime. Fame's fleeting.
Yeah. I also think of like somebody who got interviewed by Howard Stern years ago, and he was just like, dude, I just want to be rich, but have nobody know who I am. And that's
the dream. It's near impossible. I mean, once you reach a certain amount of wealth, like people are going to know you.
Yeah. People are going to know you. Yeah. But I'm like, I don't think being famous is all it's cracked up to be, because people don't really seem too stoked about it afterwards.
Yeah. So. I love walking around in a tank top and flip flops, drinking a beer in the park in the afternoon and not being accosted.
Yeah. Like a person.
Like a person.
Okay, last one. Would you rather be able to see the future or read minds?
Oh, that's a good one. I think reading minds would be really noisy. So I'd probably say predict the future.
Yeah. I think you're right. I feel like I'm forgetting the Jim Carrey movie, but I feel like we solved that. It wasn't Liar Liar. It was something. I'm going to date myself now. But also I love that we got a Devon Sawa reference on the podcast. So thank you for that. My teenage self is like, thanks.
There you go.
Appreciate you. Okay. Well, we've gotten to know each other a little bit better. We can go back to work.
All right.
All right. I mean, we're only going to be so work related. But really you've got an impressive resume of building and leading cross-functional marketing teams at nearly every stage, from scaling your team at Affirm from 4 to 50 to shaping the organization design of the marketing organization at Thumbtack. And now, kind of starting from just about the ground up at Lindy. When you get into a new role, or when you observe others in the industry getting into a new role, what do you think a common mistake is that marketing leaders make when they're trying to scale quickly? And what do you think they, or even you, should be doing differently in today's environment? I'm sure there's things when you look at it that you're like, oh, I'll never do that again. Or, oh, I wish I would have done this sooner. Or, oh, wow, that person just went there and they did that. That's an interesting choice. And it's easy to be a couch quarterback, but with hindsight.
I honestly, it's a super relevant question because I'm asking myself this as I both build out the marketing organization here. But more importantly, I'm doing a lot of thinking and research around like, what does the future marketing organization look like with AI in the picture? And with that kind of note in the back of my mind, I think the biggest mistake, even taking AI out of the picture, that a lot of other sort of marketing leaders do when they're trying to build out their early teams, is they hire for today's work instead of tomorrow's strategy. And what that looks like in practice, especially in fast-growing orgs, is there's an immediate temptation as a marketing leader who has kind of responsibility to the top of funnel and to the bottom line to plug gaps, right? Like, we need to come in, we need to solve problems, we need to drive growth, we need to like keep customers around. And that knee-jerk reaction is actually doing us a disservice because it steals the opportunity to build leverage. And the teams that scale really well invest early in a few things. One is, it's kind of a 4-letter word. I love it and I hate it, but like, process and a clear operating cadence can get you so far, right? Especially in an organization and in a lot of tech business that are just like highly cross-functional. Like, you don't do anything without kind of talking to your other go-to-market partners on sales and success, like working with product and engineering on timelines and deliverables and just sort of product roadmap. There's a million things to do. And the other piece that I think really helps is a shared language around performance and priorities, not just internally within marketing, but at a sort of leadership and functional level. And the last piece is, like I kind of alluded to, is that strong connective tissue between functions. So if you're kind of investing in all three of those areas, it doesn't really matter like how you kind of orchestrate and architect your team from a functional standpoint. They're already set up for success with those three things in the picture. So I typically, when I'm looking at the team specifically and like how I scale and how I hire, I tend to try not to hire for output. I hire for judgment. And the future marketing organizations are much leaner, as I think we're all kind of coming to realize. But they're also going to be way more impactful and efficient and capable than any that came before it. And so by nature of that, like, output kind of gets diluted. Like, oh, you could be like an incredible IC and just like ruthless, executor. But the capabilities of other people who maybe aren't as like grind heavy as you are to deliver the same amount of output by augmenting themselves with AI is going to catch up. And where the differentiation then becomes is like, where you're making clear judgment calls and like, are you bringing creative and sort of strategic thinking to the problem at hand and kind of like thinking outside the box. And so, what that gets distilled down to ultimately is just like less output outcomes and more like inputs around hunger to learn and just like trying to educate themselves constantly on the rapidly changing landscape of tools and capabilities and channels and platforms and strategies. Like, it's just coming at us rapid fire. So you got to be sort of a lifelong learner, and you have to also have keen judgment. And like, those are things that, kind of come innately to some individuals and really hard to build over time if you're not trying proactively.
Yeah. I always say there's two things that I can't teach people. One is curiosity. Like, I want to hire I was an annoying kid, but like, I want to hire the annoying kid that just needed to know why. That wouldn't leave it alone, that just had to know why. And the other thing is like, I can't train you on how to give a shit. So you can't make people care more than they do. And like, I think that many people have said like, and I have said this on the show before, that AI is not going to take your job, but a marketer that uses AI is going to take your job. And so when you think about like the skills and traits that are the most valuable for marketers to have, like, I think sometimes when you're really busy, it's very easy to deprioritize the lifelong learning piece of it. It's real easy to get into a rut. So like, I look for people that are just like always curious, always like just reading and knowing and like even if they're not going to use the tactic, even if it's not applicable for their business, like, do you want to know about it? You've mentioned a couple of traits already, but like, are there any other traits or capabilities, even like just knowing how to write a good prompt, I think is becoming more and more and more important. But are there traits or capabilities that you're like, man, when you meet somebody with X, Y, and Z, like that's just so valuable for that marketer to have and like for your organization to have.
Yeah. I think the biggest ones in this day and age of like marketing in the AI era are both, it's a combination of broad generalist kind of acumen, as well as just the human, the core of your humanness, if I could really distill it down. So, what I mean by that latter point is humans are storytellers. We're like narrative machines by nature. Like from the very beginning of humanity, like it's how we survived and how we thrived as a species. And I think, that element of having narrative instinct is going to become more and more and more important in the marketing function across the spectrum, not just in like brand and creative, but in growth, in product marketing. And so, that is going to become invaluable. And AI can write, but it can't decide what's worth saying. And so really takes me to my next point of like taste. When everyone can generate, taste becomes the differentiating factor. And I'm a big fan of Rick Rubin. I don't know if you're familiar, but like incredible, legendary producer, on record saying like, I play zero instruments. I have no musical talent. I can't do shit. But like what I do have is a keen ear and eye for what's good, what like will hit. And, I think that's just by nature, like, we as marketers are going to have to just really tune into that to continue to excel in our roles. And I think candidly, it's going to make marketing just better long term. Like there's a lot of fear and doubt about like, oh no, like AI is just going to take every marketer's job. Now we're going to, like you said, it's a marketer who's using AI who's going to take your job, not AI. And the output's going to be better. Like hands down, it's going to come faster. It's going to be higher quality. It's going to resonate more, and all because like the person had the luxury, freedom, and sort of ability to spend time on crafting a really strong story and like finding something that's going to resonate in the cultural zeitgeist. So, that's really the person element of it, the human element of the traits that I think are super valuable in this time and age. I think on the flip, like there's just some like foundational understanding that you have to have on like channel fluency, for instance, really deeply getting like why a platform works the way it works and like how to really eke the most, impact out of it just by staying ahead of the curve and really understanding how those algorithms, behind the scenes are tuning the content and boosting or downgrading what you're putting out there in the sphere. And then I think like the last piece on the technical side is like, you may not have to be a coder, but you have to have technical empathy. You need to know what's possible given the current landscape of capabilities, especially as, prompt-based engineering becomes a thing. And, I've seen, we all know about vibe coding now, like there's vibe browsing with like agentic computer use being a feature. There's just going to be vibe everything. But I think like at the core of it, you still need to know what's possible, and you need to stay abreast of like what that ever-changing landscape looks like, because it's going to be what differentiates you from like staying ahead of the curve or being left behind. But I think of it like it's just like using a computer. Back in the day, like if you're like, nah, I'm just going to stick with this notepad and ledger, like we're good.
Just gonna play Oregon Trail, you guys. I'll see you later. Like, hope I don't die of dysentery.
Yeah.
Like
you always die of dysentery.
You always die of dysentery, but also like fear of the unknown is powerful, obviously. And humans have been afraid of the unknown for a very long time. And we've never seen more rapid technological innovation than we've seen in the last 5, 10, 20, 30, 100 years. Like it's kind of crazy. It's not kind of crazy. It's insane. But a couple of things. Like I love a Rick Rubin reference. Like he is, if you're listening to this and you don't know who he is, just like watch a couple of videos with him. Like he is a fascinating human being, and also like talk about a tastemaker. I also think of like Anna Wintour. Like for whatever else you want to say about her, she has dictated by and large how an entire industry operates for a very long time, and her disciples have. Like it's a fascinating thing to watch at like how somebody who has a really refined point of view can bring that refined point of view, and I shouldn't say refined, defined. Like they know, I know what good is when I see it, is something else. Like it's like good creative. I know it's good when I see it. And there's like tenets and parts of it, but like sometimes you're just like, yeah, that hits. And it's an instinctual reaction. But it's also like shit in, shit out. Like if you're not taking the time to brief a human creative properly, and you're not taking the time to write an AI prompt carefully, like you are going to get back some truly spectacular stuff. Nowhere is that better illustrated right now than like everything that's going on with Grok and X. Like it's fascinating to me. Fascinating. But, you know, bad prompts, bad content. It's a real challenge. But again, I love what you said. Like, I'm not trying to stoke the fear. I think you're trying to create some urgency around like marketers need to learn how to leverage this technology. But like how, on an individual level, how are you mentoring marketers to incorporate AI into their workflow and navigate the changes that AI is driving in their career? Or in other words, like just coaching people on like what to double down on, what to let go on. Like you don't have to do that because AI can do it really well for you. Like this agent can do it really well for you. You can let go. It's okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is, you know, it's easy to say like, yeah, you know, kind of challenge the status quo and give yourself the space to continue to learn and educate yourself on what's possible. It's really hard to do that in practice, especially if you're kind of young and coming up in your career. You know, but on the flip side, I think it's just absolutely vital for them to be leading the charge in terms of what is possible, because it's, you know, as someone who's later in their career, like I am even more stuck. Like your brain physically gets more rigid as you age. The neuron pathways are not as malleable anymore. And by nature of that, like moving off of your position or trying something new or just sort of challenging the ways that you were just breaking habits is hard. And, you know, I think young people in their career right now have an opportunity to really just start from an entirely different place on the board by nature of just like not having so many things to kind of like uproot, overturn, and start fresh. So, you know, when I think about the message to kind of like people earlier in their kind of professional lives and like how I can help mentor them, like one is going back to what I said earlier is like double down on your human strengths, you know, like figure out how ways you can become a better storyteller, put stories out there, see what resonates, you know, try to like find explorations outside of your job that allow you to be creative. You know, like there's a million different things that you can do that will help elevate your thinking in terms of telling a stronger story and like building marketing strategies that resonate just by nature of connecting the dots between just the act of creativity, you know, another Rick Rubin quote, because that's his book, and literally, you know, your daily job. So doubling down on humanness, systematizing everything repeatable is a big one too. You know, let AI take the first pass, use the save time for creative explorations, like find ways to have it not just be sort of a crutch or a co-pilot, but something that is like materially freeing up your day and removing some of the just, you know, route mundane tasks that would have just sucked up 4 hours of your life for absolutely no reason. You know, we're all there. And like, I'm happy to say that, you know, my life is materially more efficient since in the last 3 months since joining Lindy, just by nature of dog fooding the product. So if I can do it, like certainly, you know, someone kind of earlier in their career can get leverage from these tools as well. And then the last one is just like stay close to the edge. You know, the frontier is advancing as we speak. Like from when we jumped on this conversation to right now, something happened. You know, I'll go look on Twitter after this and there will be some like, you know, groundbreaking announcement about an open source model that's like changed the game. So, you know, play with the tools, test weird workflows, build intuition through use, like find ways where these things connect, where the people who even made them don't know the possibilities of how they could interact with each other. And I think like the beauty of exploring and being kind of an early discoverer in the landscape of AI marketing technology is that like you could discover something that genuinely they didn't even know they built, which is wild to think of. So, you know, I think the marketers early in their career who will win aren't just AI users, they're AI native thinkers, and they are able to imagine what becomes possible when the old constraints go away.
I love that. I think that's a perfect place to end. I end with one question that I ask everyone. You've given us so much to think about. This has been wonderful. The question that I always ask everybody is that we hear the term growth hack all of the time. growth hack, growth hacking. What I want to know is, what is your favorite growth non-hack? What is quintessential to growth that you just can't hack your way to?
It's funny. I have a response to this, but then I almost was like, well, I think I can do that with Lindy. But a deep and intuitive and nuanced understanding of the customer is something that I don't think you can like necessarily build loops and hack your way into and shortcut your way to the final outcome. Like, talking to customers who use your product will never not be a valuable experience. Now, on the flip side, like, could I build an AI voice agent that calls up some of my top, 10% ARR customers and has an active human-like dialogue and then dumps that into a knowledge repository and synthesizes what maybe the like clear use cases and pain points that our product is solving are? Probably. Like, am I doing that already? And yes. But I love a good conversation. So, I don't think you can growth hack your way into, the qualitative exchange of two people having a good conversation.
Yeah. I think also you can use AI to facilitate that, but at the end of the day, you have to be willing to read and listen to the outputs and take action based on them. I don't see that being something that an AI tool or agent can do for you or force you to take and extrapolate into something meaningful for your business. I don't see a shortcut to that part.
We still have autonomy as humans for now.
Well, Everett, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a blast. Truly good to get to know you. Really glad to have you on the show. And thanks again for all your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Growth Talks. We hope you found our discussion insightful and fun. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more valuable content. And if you're excited and ready to start up-leveling your growth strategies and execution, Right Side Up has you covered. Right Side Up is a leading growth marketing agency that has partnered with over 1,000 companies of all stages and sizes to help them meet and exceed their growth goals. With expertise across all growth marketing functions, we can help you evaluate product market fit, develop customer acquisition strategies, navigate executional challenges and staffing gaps, and make pivotal decisions with confidence. And whether you need one individual or a custom-built, full-service team, we'll find you the right A+ talent. Visit us at rightsideup.com to see how we can help you and your company grow.